most leaders think that generosity is emotional or optional. You argue that it is biological. And let's start with that. What are we missing?
Yeah. So, I mean, the science all points to the fact that it is actually biological. There are studies that indicate that pre-linguistic babies, so babies that are incapable yet of language, when they put them into an environment where they have the opportunity to be empathetic or altruistic or generous and sharing, they in general exhibit those behaviors. So they'll wake a baby up from a nap, and they're hungry and they're cranky, and the adult will drop a snack or a toy or something like that, and the baby, who hasn't really been socialized before, will take the snack and they'll give it to the adult, or they'll take the toy and give it to the adult. And they've done this over multiple iterations, meta studies, and it demonstrates this across different cultures, across different multiple different scenarios. And that, amongst a bunch of different studies, indicates that there's a kind of element of our biology that does that. But then brain studies indicate that there are molecules in our brains, just like you mentioned, of oxytocin and serotonin that light up in our brain when generosity occurs. And I don't just mean, this isn't, as you mentioned, about giving to a nonprofit. There are all kinds of elements about generosity that exist and occur when we do things for other people. So as a leader, when we act generously to our staff, to our teams, that demonstrates and creates a level of trust amongst our team that creates a safe working environment, that psychological safety that's necessary for our teams to do their best work. And we, as a leader, we feel that, and we engage in that. The biology occurs, those chemicals occur in our brains, but they actually also occur in the part of the other person. And we can see that through brain scans as well. So there's very clear, very proven evidence in the science around the biology of generosity, to the point where Dr. Paul Zak, for example, will give people money and say, you can either spend this on yourself or you can spend this on others. And people at the end of the day will say, we spent this on ourselves, we spent this on others. The people who spent it on others come back and say they feel healthier, they feel happier. They've done longitudinal studies that say that it impacted their stress levels, their cortisol levels, that it's essentially the same as like giving up smoking. Now, I want to be clear that if you are smoking, you should give up smoking. Like, that's better. But there's an effect that is significantly impacting your health when you do generous behaviors. So, and that's right down the line of the science. So you can do that research and find that this is a public health, this is a public health and a personal health impact that's really, really significant. Not just, again, from a giving to a nonprofit. You should do that if you're a charitable person. And I would argue that, there's benefits to doing that beyond your health. But as a person, as a leader, as someone who cares, that has a really significant benefit to you as well.